Hello, BookTube. I thought I'd make an announcement video today for a BookTube event that's going on in the month of May. This is maybe Midrash, and it is the brainchild of Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse. And this year he has asked me and Felicia at Little Prairie Library and Rick MacDonnell to help him co-host a month-long consideration of religion. Its place in literature, probably given Jason's interest, probably its place in movies as well. The goal for maybe Midrash is for you to read, if you want to join in with us, and I highly encourage you to, is to read at least one serious work of fiction that deals with religious themes, and at least one serious work of nonfiction that deals with religious themes. And the fun of the host lineup that Jason has assembled is the illusion of a spectrum. The four hosts consists of two Christians, one agnostic, and one atheist. Jason and Felicia are Christians. Rick MacDonnell has described himself, I think today in his announcement video, described himself as more of an agnostic. And I am an atheist, but I thought that it might behoove us to clarify our terms in that regard. Because atheism is a spectrum like anything else. On the one end of the spectrum, soft atheism are people who say that they just don't have any belief in a God. That's all. They've never had it sufficient. Gods and goddesses have never been sufficiently proven to them. They don't see any evidence, so they just don't have belief. They are, that's what the word literally means. They're without gods. That's all. On the other side of the spectrum of atheism is what's known in religious circles as hard atheism. That is certainly where I would place myself. And that is people who don't just say they have no faith in gods or goddesses, but who say there aren't any gods and goddesses, who make a positive claim that there aren't any gods and goddesses, and who do so on the same grounds as saying that there aren't any dragons on Earth, that there aren't any unicorns, that there aren't any leprechauns. They say it on the same grounds. They don't claim supernatural knowledge. Obviously they don't. But instead they say there's no sense except a cultural predisposition for holding out on this one thing for which there is no evidence, no proof, no indication in any way, and plenty of indication against. There's no sense except cultural indoctrination for holding out on that one subject and saying about all those other things, no, they don't exist. It's not that they might exist, but I don't believe it. I don't see any evidence of it. You can say they don't exist. Religious people all over the world say that about all kinds of things. Whereas agnosticism, I believe that Rick characterizes himself as an agnostic in his announcement video today, tend to say more, the stereotypical characterization of them is that they tend to say, well, I just don't know one way or another. And some of them will say, I don't know how you can know one way or another. I myself personally don't know one way or another. And I want to point out something before I go to my my TBR for the month. That soft end of atheism is not an assertion of fact, like on the hard end of atheism. The soft end of atheism, atheists just say, I don't see any proof of it. I don't have any inner call of it. I don't have any outward compulsion of it if you don't live in a theocracy. So I just live my days just not thinking about it. I just don't think about it at all. It never crosses my mind what a god or goddess might want me to do or forbid me to do, what they might do on their own. It never crosses my mind. It never impacts my day at all. It never impinges on my daily life at all. That is the life of soft atheism. Not the people who say, as I do, there are no gods, but the people who say it's just not a part of my life at all. Not in any way. That soft end of atheism, I believe, demographically, is growing by leaps and bounds in the course of the world, in all religions. But I want to point out one more troublemaking thing before I go on to my books, and that is, by that definition of soft atheism, this entire event is being hosted by atheists. I want to make just a quick point along those lines. If you are an agnostic, in the common sense of the word as we understand it in the 21st century, then what you're saying is, I'm not sure there's a God. I'm not sure either way. That means you don't believe in a God. If you believed in a God, then you would be sure. If you don't believe in a God, then you're not sure. And if you don't believe in a God, you're an atheist. On the soft end of the spectrum. But also, more importantly, Jason and Felicia know perfectly well what it's like, what it feels like to be the kind of atheist I just described. They go through every day of their lives without sparing even so much as a theoretical thought for Shiva, Brahma, Shango, Horus, Osiris. They don't think, I'm not trying to be flip here. They don't think about those gods at all. And tens or hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, even billions of people have or do every day think about those gods, worry about what those gods are thinking, try to conform their behavior for future benefit from those gods. Not only now in the case of Hinduism or whatever, but also in the past, where hundreds of thousands of Egyptians wrote out long theodicies, wrote out long codicils and liturgies to gods that are long gone. No one believes in them anymore. They've been dead names in mythologies for thousands of years. But before they were, tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of Egyptians believed in them passionately, knew their characteristics, knew their feast days. Happy Easter to you Christians out there. Knew the things that made them angry. And lay awake at night, thrashing in their beds, in anguish, in mental anguish, about whether or not they were on the right side of those gods. And those ancient Egyptians are long gone, and their gods are long gone. And as a result, when Jason's walking around during the day, when he's feeling at his most pious, he's feeling a piety that is conditioned by a god he was raised with. He doesn't even think about piety as it is for Odin or Thor. I guarantee you that piety would look very different. He doesn't even know. Most Christians don't even know half of a percentage point of the number of the names of the gods for which they are atheists. And that's true in this case as well. An agnostic is an atheist. A Christian is an atheist to every other god and knows exactly, therefore, what it feels like to walk around all day and just not even think about it, not anger. Most fundamentalist Christians, anyway, who think about atheism, think about the kind of atheist that I am, a so-called hard atheist, who says there are no gods. And those fundamentalist Christians tend to think that those atheists are angry, bitter, disappointed, that it's a rage against the God they know is true that's animating them all day long, that's getting them on the city bus, that's getting them to work, that's making sure they walk past a church on Sunday without going in, that sort of thing. And they're dead wrong. Those fundamentalist Christians, I don't think we have any fundamentalist Christians in maybe Midrash this month, but those fundamentalist Christians are dead wrong. Those atheists aren't walking around, most of them, 99.9% of them, are not walking around in rage and anger. They're just simply not thinking about it any more than the Christians and the agnostics in this very event think of Shango at the crossroads. They don't know what would please them or not please them, and they're not interested to find out. If they read about him, they'll read about him in a Penguin collection of mythology, where he has been defanged of his ability to get anybody killed. He has been defanged of his ability to cost anybody a good night's sleep. And that's what the term, that's how the term applies to maybe Midrash, is that really it's just a big viper's nest of atheists. But nevertheless, Jason's call to talk about religion intelligently, perceptively, sensitively, is wonderfully refreshing. It's just wonderfully refreshing. Religion is too often used, and always has been, as a kind of cudgel, and I'm always happy when it's not. I just wanted to clarify our terms. That's all. Now that I've made enough trouble, I'm really not feeling up to making a whole lot of trouble. I thought I would show you my books, and I'm once again risking using an iPad to do that. I've reconfigured this thing. I've locked its rotation. I've made a kind of handle. I'm hoping that all of that is enough. I want to show you the two works that are sort of my signal picks for maybe Midrash. Because keep in mind, you only have to pick one of each, one work of fiction and one work of nonfiction. I will be reading more than just those two things about religion in the course of May. But I wanted to show you my first two, and my fiction pick is something that we've seen on this channel. I hauled it on this channel, I think last year. I've owned a paperback of this book many, many times and love it, but I haven't reread it in a while. Maybe Midrash is a perfect opportunity for me to reread it. It's this. It's I, Judas by Taylor Caldwell with an assist from Jess Stern. Taylor Caldwell was once upon a time a massively best-selling author. And this is a novelization of the Gospels, told from the point of view of Judas Iscariot. And it's quite good. You can, I think, easily tell the fruits of collaboration here, because it's a lot less everything in the kitchen sink narrative style of the type that Taylor Caldwell prefers, and there's a lot of New Age spirituality creeping in around the edges, which Jess Stern prefers. So you get either the best or the worst of both worlds, depending on how you look at it. But it's very effective. This is a perfect opportunity to reread it. And then for nonfiction, I'm going to read this big thing. Dale Allison's The Resurrection of Jesus. This is a historical and sort of theological study of the resurrection. It's not so much a minute by minute account as it is a sort of a study of what the resurrection has meant, the kinds of schools of thought that it has spurred over the years, over the centuries. I read another book by this author about the historical Jesus, and I thought it had more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. So I don't know what to expect from this. I'll go into it and I'll hope for the best. Of course, I'll hope for the best. Those are the two that I'll be doing, but I'm going to be reading a lot of other religious related stuff in the course of the month, of course, for a number of different reasons. I review a religious memoir or a religious tract of one kind or another virtually every day for a number of different venues. But I also read, a glutton for punishment that I am. I read lots of them elsewhere as well. So I will be doing that in the month of May, and some of those are May releases. Other of those are coming up in the future. I want to show you a couple of them that I'm kind of excited for. I'm hoping that they turn out to be good. The first one is The Heritage of Anglican Theology by J.I. Packer, who's kind of the he's recently dead, I believe, but or maybe he died a while ago. One way or another, this is a sort of a compilation of his thought and literary records on Anglicanism, its intellectual history, and also the gifts that it's given to the wider theology. And that fascinates me all on its own, obviously, for obvious historical reasons. That fascinates me. So I'll be reading this. I'm not sure if this is out in bookstores yet. I have an e-galley, but it might not be out in bookstores yet. And then the last one that I want to show you, this won't be the only things that I read. There'll be other religious related stuff all throughout the month, and I will try to make follow-up videos where I touch on those. But this next one I'm also looking forward to. I'm not sure when this comes out. It could be early summer. This is Living, I Was Your Plague by Lyndall Roper, who a few years ago wrote a really good one-volume biography of Martin Luther. And this is sort of a companion to that book in a way that I always hope biographers will somehow have the wherewithal to do. Usually if you write a long biography of someone, especially someone as odious as Luther, by the time you get to the end of the book, you're not going to want anything more to do with them. And so this sort of thing, which is a kind of collection of Lutheriana, his legacy, his apocrypha, little bits of history that maybe didn't warrant a whole chapter in her biography of Luther. Things like that are assembled here in ways that I'm looking forward to very much. This is a very entertaining author on Luther. I very much liked that earlier biography, so we'll hope for the best with this. And that's the reading that I'm going to do for maybe Midrash for 2021. Some of it. And you're welcome to join in. I'm sure that my co-hosts are going to say this as well in their videos, but you're welcome to join in. Give some of the religious texts that may have been sitting on your shelves for a while, give them a dusting off and get to work on them. You're going to have lots of engaged company in the course of the month. So I will leave a link to my co-host channels down below, although I can't believe that you don't already subscribe to them. You probably do. But just in case, I'll leave a link down below and you can watch their announcement videos as well. And that's it. That's it for me. That's maybe Midrash for 2021. I'll be retouching on this subject later. Just I'm done with this video for now, but I'll come back to the subject in the course of the month. Thank you, BookTube.